Canto 7, Chapter 7, and today our focus will be on text number 21. Yesterday His Holiness Vedvyas Priya Maharaj, because he did the initiation class, so I'll take off from where the earlier speaker had covered, which is 1920 he had covered, so I'll take on text 21 today. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudhirayet Nashta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavatir Naishtiki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nandagopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. So text 21 goes as follows. Swarnam yatha gravasuhe makaraha. Swarnam yatha gravasuhe makaraha. Swarnam yatha gravasuhe makaraha. Kshetreshu yogaistad abhignapyunat. Kshetreshu yogaistad abhignapyunat. Kshetreshu yogaistad abhignapyunat. Kshetreshu deheshu tathatma yogair. Kshetreshu deheshu tathatma yogair. Adhyatma vid brahma gatim labheta. Adhyatma vid brahma gatim labheta. Swarnam yatha gravasuhe makaraha. Kshetreshu yogaistad abhignapyunat. Kshetreshu deheshu tathatma yogair. Adhyatma vid brahma gatim labheta. Swarnam yatha gravasuhe makaraha. Kshetreshu yogaistad abhignapyunat. Kshetreshu deheshu tathatma yogair. Adhyatma vid brahma gatim labheta. Swarnam yatha gravasuhe makaraha. Kshetreshu yogaistad abhignapyunat. Kshetreshu deheshu tathatma yogair. Adhyatmavid Brahmagatim labheta. Swarnam yatha gravasuhe makaraha. Kshetreshu yogaistad abhigna apnuyat. Kshetreshu deheshu tathatma yogair. Adhyatmavid Brahmagatim labheta. Swarnam yatha gravasuhe makaraha. Kshetreshu yogaistad abhigna apnuyat. Kshetreshu deheshu tathatma yogair. Adhyatmavid Brahmagatim labheta. Thank you, Prabhu. Swarnam yatha gravasuhe makaraha. Kshetreshu yogaistad abhigna punat. Kshetreshu deheshu tathatma yogair. Adhyatmavid Brahmagatim labheta. Matajis. Swarnam yatha gravasuhe makaraha. Kshetreshu yogaistad abhignapnuyat. Kshetreshu deheshu tathatma yogair. Adhyatmavid Brahmagatim labheta. Swarnam, gold, yatha, just as, gravasu, in the stones of gold ore, hemakaraha, the expert who knows about gold, kshetreshu, in the gold mines, yogai, by various processes, tad abhigna, an expert who can understand where gold is, apnuyat, very easily obtains, kshetreshu, within the material fields, deheshu, the human bodies, and all the rest of the 8.4 million different bodily forms. Tatha, similarly, Atma Yogai, by spiritual processes, Adhyatmavit, one who is expert in understanding the distinction between spirit and matter. Brahmagatim, perfection in spiritual life. Labheta, may obtain. Translation. An expert geologist can understand where there is gold. An expert geologist can understand where there is gold and by various processes can extract it from the gold ore. Similarly, a spiritually advanced person can understand how the spiritual particle exists within the body. And thus, by cultivating spiritual knowledge, he can attain perfection in spiritual life. However, as one who is not expert cannot understand where there is gold, a foolish person who has not cultivated spiritual knowledge cannot understand how the spirit exists within the body. Purport. By His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Here is a very good example concerning spiritual understanding. Foolish rascals, including so-called jnanis, philosophers, and scientists, cannot understand the existence of the soul within the body because, why? Because they are lacking in spiritual knowledge. That is why they cannot understand. The Vedas enjoin tad vijñārtham sagurum evabi gachet. To understand spiritual knowledge, one must approach a bona fide spiritual master. Unless one has been trained in geology, one cannot detect gold in stone. Similarly, unless one has been trained by a spiritual master, he cannot understand what is spirit and what is matter. Here it is said, yogais tad abhignya. This indicates that one who has connected himself with spiritual knowledge can understand that there is a spirit soul within the body. However, one who is an animalistic conception of life and has no spiritual culture cannot understand. As an expert mineralogist or geologist can understand where there is gold and can then invest his money to dig there and chemically separate the gold from the ore, an expert spiritualist can understand where the soul is within matter. One who has not been trained cannot distinguish between gold and stone. Similarly, fools and rascals who have not learned from an expert spiritual master what is soul and what is matter cannot understand the existence of the soul within the body. To understand such knowledge, one must be trained in the mystic yoga system or finally in the bhakti yoga system. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 18.55, Bhaktya mam abhijanati. Unless one takes shelter of the bhakti yoga process, one cannot understand the existence of the soul within the body. Therefore, Bhagavad Gita begins by teaching dehinosmin yatha dehe kaumaram yavanam jara tatha dehantara praptir dhiras tatra namuhyati. As the embodied soul continuously passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. The self-realized soul is not bewildered by such a change. Bhagavad Gita 2.13. Thus, the first instruction is that one should understand that the soul is within the body. That is the first instruction. And that the soul is transmigrating from one body to another. This is the beginning of spiritual knowledge. Beginning of spiritual knowledge. Any person who is not expert in understanding this science or is unwilling to understand it remains in the bodily conception of life or the animalistic conception of life, as confirmed in Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. Yashyatma buddhi kun ape tridhatuke sa eva gokharaha. Every member of human society should clearly understand the instructions of Bhagavad Gita, for only in this way can one be spiritually elevated and automatically give up the false illusory knowledge by which one thinks, I am this body and everything belonging to this body is mine. Aham mameti. This doggish conception should be rejected immediately. One should be prepared to understand the spirit, soul and the supreme spirit, God, who are eternally related. Thus, one may return home back to Godhead, having solved all the problems of life. Very interesting purport by Prabhupada. Om ajnanatimirandhasya jnananjana shalakaya chakshurun militam yena tasmai Sri Gurave namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Tadati Swa Padantikam Mukham Karoti Vachalam Panghum Langhayate Girim Yat Kripatam Vaham Vande Sri Guru Dinatarinam Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. As an expert geologist can understand where there is gold and by various processes can extract it from the gold ore, similarly a spiritually advanced person can understand how the spiritual particle exists within the body, and thus by cultivating spiritual knowledge he can attain perfection in spiritual life. However, as one who is not expert cannot understand where there is gold, a foolish person who has not cultivated spiritual knowledge cannot understand how the spirit exists within the body. So, this is a continuation of what Prahlad Maharaj learnt in his womb from Narad Muni. When Narad Muni was speaking to his mother, Narad Muni's only business is to give spiritual knowledge. Narad Muni doesn't have any other agenda, right? And whoever he sees, he wants to deliver. In this case, Narad Muni is speaking to Kayadu, and Prahlad Maharaj within the womb has heard these instructions. And when asked by his schoolmates what you learnt in the womb, Prahlad Maharaj is in turn preaching to them. So this is the system this is a system called as Goshti Anandis. We hear and then we speak. We hear and then we give this knowledge to others. We hear from bona fide authorities and then we give this knowledge to others. So when we start a Bhakti Vriksha program, we don't directly go and discuss Rasa Tattva with them. Right? Vipralamba Rasam Bodhe. No, we don't discuss that. What do we start with? We discuss with the basic knowledge. What is one of the first things we tell people? That you are not your body. But we also tell them who they are. Right? So because what happened when Prabhupada was giving classes, so Prabhupada used to say, I am not my body, like that. So people thought that Prabhupada was not his body, but they were their bodies. So they are confused, right? So therefore, we tell them that I am not my body and you are not also your body. Nobody is his or her body, right? So this is the basic knowledge. And in today's purport, Prabhupada is hammering this point that this lesson must be understood first. First by the person who is preaching, then by the person who is being given this knowledge too. So everyone has to understand this knowledge because this is the beginning of spiritual knowledge. We will not understand anything in the realm of spirituality if we don't understand this basic thing. Of course, understanding and realization are two different things. We understand, but sometimes we don't realize. So realization can take one lifetime or realization can take many lifetimes depending upon the pace which we decide. Nobody is deciding the pace, only we are deciding. As many times it is said that sometimes we may be rowing the boat with the anchor firmly fixed in the shore. So therefore, though we are all anchoring, then what's happening? The boat is not moving much, right? So therefore it is up to us to realize it, but all of us understand it. But Prabhupada is saying, at least let's try to understand it. For understanding it, one has to open a spiritual book, right? For opening a spiritual book, one needs to know that a spiritual book exists. For knowing that a spiritual book exists, one needs to have some faith and approach someone who knows that a spiritual book exists and who has studied it. So Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, then Bhajana Kriya. So we have to associate with devotees. So Prabhupada says this knowledge we can get only from a person who is a representative of God, who is a bona fide representative of God, right? Why? Because non-bona fide cannot be a representative in one sense. It's an oxymoron. Okay. So someone who is not bona fide can also give knowledge of the difference between body and soul, but they'll only give half information. What will they say? They'll say that you are not your body, you are spirit soul. I am not by body, I am spirit soul. We all are spirit soul. Not to speak of Krishna and Rama, they are also spirit souls, just like all of us. When our soul becomes purified, you will be Krishna, you will be Rama. This is nonsense. Okay, therefore, they will also tell the difference between body and soul. But later on, what will happen? The flight which is taking off from India to go to San Francisco will fly nicely till it reaches San Francisco, but at the end of the day, where it will land? It will land on the other side in the ocean. That is Mayavad philosophy. It will look that it is the same destination, but it is going in the gutter after that, right? It's not landing anywhere. Right. So therefore, this knowledge has to be, even the knowledge of soul has to be accepted only from bona fide authority. Otherwise people come and tell me, yeah, we attended this Nanda, that Nanda, and then, yeah, I know, they also tell same thing, Prabhu, same whatever you are telling. No, we are not telling same. There is a big difference between what we say, because we acknowledge that we are infinitesimal spirit soul, but we are never God. God is also spirit, we are also spirit, but we are supreme, but He is supreme spirit and we are infinitesimal spirit, right? We are achintya veda bhed, we are qualitatively one but quantitatively never one. So that is why Prabhupada is hammering. Understand even the basic knowledge from bona fide, otherwise fundamentals itself are. If we don't know 1 plus 2 is equal to 3, we cannot do, derivatives and integration, calculus beyond that. Everything will be wrong because basic itself is not clear, right? So Prabhupada is hammering this. So how do we understand that we are the soul? So there is a lot of information that is given in the scriptures. I'll start with a story of how people get bewildered into thinking that they are something different and how people's behavioral patterns are different when they think they are someone different. So there is a manager who is sitting in his cabin. Now managers obviously have some kind of an ego, right? Especially when you have a cabin and people have to knock and enter, so how much ego will be there? So knock, knock. Manager is saying, okay, come in, like that. And just before the person comes in, the manager has got 2 landlines. He's picking up both the phones and he's talking over the phone. So he's saying, hello, yeah, yes, yeah, 100%, I'll do it in a day. Don't worry. And then, oh my God, these phones. Second phone, okay. Okay. Don't worry, you have come to the right place. You have come to the right person. So the manager is busy on the phone. The person is coming inside. And then the manager, okay, what do you want now? And that fellow comes say, I am the phone repairman because your phones are not working. So what is the manager doing now? Explain. What is the manager doing? So this manager is actually suffering. He is suffering because he is not able to conduct his business. But in his suffering also he is trying to showcase he is somebody. Right? He is not giving up the identity. Right? Even in suffering. This is the nature of the material world. Even in our suffering, we have false ego. We are all suffering, still false ego. Still the head will be very high, even in suffering. Right? This is the nature of misunderstanding or misidentification of who we are. For example, sometimes when I teach children, when they are small, no problem. They'll say sit means they'll sit. They say 1 plus 2, everybody, Prabhu, 3, all nice. But what happens, the moment they come to 9th standard and 10th and 11th, the student will sit like this. Yeah. You made a mistake, sir, in your answer. Yeah, I know. Why? Because girls are also sitting there. Therefore, that's okay. I am what? I am cool. I am cool. You may be teacher, but I am cool. So, the tendency to act cool is a big problem, especially if you have a boy child, teenager, right? This will be, everyone goes through this, right? So, there is a style that is there. And this style, they are trying to show that I am something which I am actually not. Internally, it is said in this country, teenagers go through maximum anxiety, right? But externally, behaving that we are cool. Politicians, if you see in politicians also, what will happen? Now when a Vaishnava does obeisances, how do? We say, Jai Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Vachana. And when we meet someone senior or anyone, like devotees generally after some time, when we understand the principle, then what we do? We generally do this, right? Politicians also do this. How do they do? Which means what? Please give me your votes. So externally everything is the actions are all same, but what is driving? The identity, strong identity, that I am a big politician, I am a big man. The way big people do namaste also is like that. That I am big and you are small. Actually they are doing this, right? It's like in office, English is a very peculiar language. In office, if somebody wants to tell nicely something to you, they'll say, I request you to please take some time to return your cell phone, since you have quit off, to return your laptop to the office. This is one way of saying. The word request can be used also. You are requested to return your cell phone. Is it request? Right? So, language itself is so different. So, the intent shows whether it is very congenial or whether there is some animosity in the language, right? The intent is conveyed. So everything depends. Based on behavioral patterns, we can understand how much one identifies with what or who he or she is. Externally, it becomes very evident from outside. So this verse is beseeching, requesting us to understand the true nature of our identity, understand our real identity. Because every conditioned soul, and I am saying conditioned soul, every conditioned soul has got two identities. One is the temporary relative identity and the real permanent identity. So, our temporary identity is always in relation to something or someone in the material world. It has got something to do with the material world. That is how we get our temporary identity. It doesn't come without the connection to the material world. And people who have these temporary identities, they operate predominantly. If you see the mode of operations, their bulk of their activities will also be predominantly based on these identities, material acquired identities. The first commonmost identity is what? Name. For example, the first time when I went to, one of my very early days in ISKCON temple, I went there. One of my college friends, he was trying to preach to me. Okay, he gave me Bhagavad Gita as it is, and I kept it as it is in the shelf. So he came back after 1 year, and he dusted the Bhagavad Gita, and he said, "Don't read, at least dust and keep it back in the shelf." Right? Then he said, "I'll take you to somebody who I admire." This was my best friend, and he took me to none other than, all of you know Gaurang Prabhu, right? So he was the first person, okay. So he took me to him, and he was sitting in one corner, and he was just sitting in the temple, and then he told me, I have got my friend. That time he was much more accessible than he is today, right? So I went there, and he said, then he asked me, Gaurang Prabhu first tried to connect to me. He said, Tamila, he asked me, which means, are you Tamilian? Because he is also Tamilian, he speaks Tamil. I said, yes, okay. And then he asked me, after that immediately he changed to English and said, who are you? I said, Jagan, short form of. So, my name was Jagannath at that time. So, Jagan, I said, I asked you, who are you? Not your name, he said. That was my first lesson from him. Right? So, therefore, our first identity is what? Our name. Who are you? Jagan. We say like that. So, John, Ramirez, Murugesan, American, Spanish, Texan, Mexican, Australian, South Indian, Sudipto, Bengali Babu, right? So first our name, I am this. That gives us a powerful identity. So most people are impacted by their names. But out of people who are impacted by their names, the highest impacted are the people whose names are itself a brand. Right? Just imagine the connection they have to their names, right? We are the Ambanis. We are the Khuranas. Right? So, for example, David Beckham. A name which is a brand. Shoes are there. Beckham shoes, Beckham t-shirt. Right? So, this is a powerful identity. Michael Jordan. It's a brand. A name is a brand. Now, others are buying that brand. But can you imagine the state of the person who has that name? That's a powerful identity. If you remove that name, there is nothing. There is nothing left, right? So that's a name. A name is a brand. So their activities, if you see, will always be in connection with that name. Their dream in the night also will be in connection with that name they have established. Or some people have a strong identity based on nationality. I am Indian, I am Australian, right? American, Russian. If you see, many of the whole concept of freedom fighters come from the most powerful identity they have is what is the identity? That I am Indian, I am Britisher. So that is the army people have this identity. Or the altruists, Prabhupada says, have this kind of strong identity. Or people can derive identity from their religion, which they practice, right? The beauty about religion is both the pious people also identify strongly with their religion and the religious zealots, they also identify with their religion. So the identity is the same, but one may be doing pious activities, other may be doing, chopping of people's head every other day. Correct? So this is a strong identity with a religion. If religion doesn't catch us in this material world, then family roles definitely catch all of us. I am father. I have to do my duty. I am the maintainer of my family after all. So this is a strong identity as that I am the leader. I am maintaining my family. Who is your family? My wife, my son. No, that's not my son. That is neighbor's son. Right? My dog. That is somebody else's dog. So this is role we take. I have to protect my dog. That led to the downfall of Bharat Maharaj at Bhava platform. Such an attachment. He was in Bhava stage, one level below Prema. But he got attached to a deer thinking that I have to protect this deer. So that's a strong identity which doesn't leave us even at that stage. That we are the go-to person for things to happen in this material world. The world cannot run without me. That's a strong identity. I am something. Or people can have affiliations based on gender. When Prabhupada writes, women are less intelligent. Who will get angry? Not the men. The ladies will get angry because strong identity. I am a woman. But next lifetime, the woman can become man, man can become woman, or both can become animals also. Right? Or we can become trees also, or birds. Right? We don't know. Or one can become too attached to one's profession so that you can't think of any identity beyond your profession. I was telling in yesterday's Bhakti Vaibhav to the students that this example of Sunil Gavaskar. You have heard of Sunil Gavaskar, right? He was the greatest Indian batsman before Sachin Tendulkar became a name, right? During my childhood days, Sunil Gavaskar was the best batsman in the world. So this Sunil Gavaskar, he was asked, how do you want to leave your body? So Sunil Gavaskar said, when I leave my body, I want to have that scene where Kapil Dev is lifting the Prudential Cup 1983 and Mahendra Singh Dhoni is lifting the 2011 World Cup. I want to see that and then I'll give up my body in peace. Actually, he said the same statement. Go and Google, you'll realize it, right? So this is what strong identity with your profession, that we don't even want to think about the right things. Even knowing what we should think of, we may or may not think of. Not to speak of not knowing, that is another thing, and not to speak of thinking something which should not be thought about. So this is the state. So Prabhupada says, people may have lot of material education and material achievements, but without this basic spiritual knowledge, we are sowing the seeds for many, many, many more lifetimes in this rotten material world, which is going to get only worse. Right? So, the problem with this material identity is, not only does it bewilder us, not only does it drive all our activities in a different direction, but this can change. That is a problem with this also. So, a person who is still having strong identity with one material identity, that material identity itself can change. For example, in India, an accomplished engineer from the most prestigious institute, Indian Institute of Technology, IIT, Nowadays he has become a politician. His whole identity has changed. I'm talking about Arvind Kejriwal, okay, who is the Chief Minister of Delhi right now. Right? So he was an engineer, a very accomplished engineer, who is now, whole his identity is now what? Politician. Right? So, or gender. Nowadays people can change their gender based on a surgery. So who are you then? And who are you? Or, for example, nationality. An Indian who had a strong Indian roots is now the British Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak. So who is he? Is he Indian or British? God only knows. His next generation, 3 generations down can say, we want to establish our roots, so they'll trace back genealogy, they may even go back and settle in India again, and they'll call themselves as Indian. So who was that? Who is that person? Everyone is just having changing identities. For example, many Indians have Australian passports, okay? So when they ask nationality, what do you write? Australian. We are not Australian, right? Even by birth, we are not, right? So it's easy to see the temporary nature of identities related to this body. Now, if someone says, no, I am very fixed in my bodily identity, I am not going to change. Once a cricketer, always a cricketer. If someone says that statement, what do you tell? Even if your identity doesn't change, sir, your body will definitely change, because the body is going to dwindle at some point in time, that you will not be able to hold a bat and you will not be able to see a ball also. You'll say, is he bowling? Bowler has arrived. Because eyes are not going to be able to see anything. So therefore the body is going to dwindle even if your identity doesn't. So one great professor called as John Pfeiffer, he said that he concluded that not a single molecule in our body remains the same in a period of 7 years. So even when we are living, the body is changing every 7 years, we are getting a new body. Or another interesting research by Dr. Hare Monson, who was a professor of anatomy at the Illinois College of Medicine. He researched what the body is made up of. And he said the body contains different chemicals. And he gave it's basically 60 pounds of body contains different chemicals. It contains some percentage calcium, some phosphate, potassium, sulfur, sodium, magnesium, iron, copper, iodine. This is what the body is made up of. And he said if you measure all this and go to the market, you will get $120 for all the chemicals, right? So the body is worth what? $120, right? But the ornaments which we wear on our body, the t-shirt which we wear on our body will be much more expensive. The cell phones which we carry on ourselves are more expensive than our body itself. More than $120, right? So the things which adorn our body are more expensive than the body itself. Yet people spend their entire life savings. People spend their entire life savings when the body has a defect. When this $120 body does not cooperate, what happens? We spend our entire life savings trying to repair this body. Another interesting point, when an accident happens, okay, let us say a Ferrari, nicely going, the driver is going in a beautiful Ferrari, everyone is seeing, oh, I wish I was sitting in that car and driving. And then you see that a garbage truck comes and has a head-on collision with the Ferrari. Will you think that, oh, thank God I was not the owner of that. Immediately your mind changes, right? Now as regards, now if you are on the road and that Ferrari driver is there bleeding, what will you do? You will immediately say that, okay, very expensive car, let me take the car to the garage first. Man can still be taken care of later on, because man is $120 only, his body. Will we think like that? No, instinctively what we do, we take care of the $120 thing and let the Ferrari go to dogs, right? And Ferrari maybe what? I don't even know. How much does it cost? No, maybe 320,000, okay? Much, thousands and thousands of times more. So naturally we gravitate to the personality. not to something which is material. Okay. So, if the body is so cheap, then why do we spend so much in protecting that body? That is because there is something which is resident inside the body. And that is our permanent identity. So, we come to know, and people know, even when nobody has studied the Bhagavad Gita, people will know this. People know that inside this low-cost chemical body resides something which is more priceless and invaluable. And that treasure, that treasured living entity who is residing in that body, who we treasure, that personality, that is called as the soul. And that soul is that person. And that soul is the active principle residing within that body. Without that soul, there is no activity that the body can do. That is the personality, the spirit soul. And that spirit soul's identity, original identity, is divine. That we come to know only when we study the scriptures. Without that soul, there is no life in that $120 body. There is no life. Srila Prabhupada, in the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, in various sections, gives different analogies to corroborate this point. First one is, Prabhupada gives this usual example of the cage and the parrot. The parrot is sitting inside the cage. You can keep on using silver and keep on polishing the cage, but the parrot's life is not going to change because of that. Nothing is going to happen to the parrot, right? Or Prabhupada talks about the example of apartment versus resident. The soul is analogous to the resident and the apartment to the body. So Prabhupada says we are tenants within this body. When the tenancy is over, we will get kicked out of this body. Therefore, we cannot even say this is my body. This body is not purchased by us. Even this $120 is mortgage. It is given to us and it can be taken away from us without anything. And we can't even go and say that put a stay order on it. We can't do anything, right? So in one sense, this body doesn't belong to us also. Now, in a company, it is said that the shareholders run the company, right? And whoever has got the maximum shares, or whichever conglomerate has got the maximum, consortium has got the maximum shares, that person owns the company. In this body, we, the spirit soul, is only one unit. But inside this body, there is bacteria, everything is there. They are multiple. So actually, who is the majority shareholder of this body? Even if we think like that, it is not us. We are not the resident of this, primary resident of this body, right? So much so, if we start thinking like that. So Prahlad Maharaj is hammering this point. If you don't understand this principle, you will understand nothing in the realm of spirituality. Prabhupada also gives the example of a car. If someone hits our car, why do we get angry? Because they think that this fellow has hit me. But it's only they have just touched the car. Only the bumper is hanging now. That's all. You are not hanging, right? But people have an identity. How dare you? Me, my car, like that. So there's a simple example that will help us understand a little bit more from this. A car needs fuel. A car needs fuel. But will a car run only on fuel? Car also needs a human being. Somebody may say, oh, there's a Tesla car which is running automatic. But has Tesla car come from nothing? Is the artificial intelligence come from another artificial intelligence? Where does artificial intelligence come from? It comes from natural intelligence. We should not forget that. Right? So even if the Tesla car is driving without a driver, the person who has done it is a human being who has used his brain to put some algorithm into that. Right? So we cannot deny the importance of human intervention or human intelligence. So there is still a difference between the car and the driver of the car. Just as if the driver is thirsty, he cannot drink the fuel of the car. We cannot say, I'm drinking petrol now. Very thirsty. Because same thing, me, my car, all same thing. Right? Car runs, I will also run on my petrol, on the petrol. Not possible, right? Nor can the person say, I like pumpkin soup, so I'll put pumpkin soup in the engine and expect the car to run. Because what drives the car is different than what drives the passenger, right? So we have to understand that needs of the body and the needs of the soul are two distinct things to understand. So that's on another level that we can understand. So the food and the drivers are different for both the car and the driver. Now, what does spiritual education tell us? Without spiritual education, Prabhupada is hammering this point here that we cannot understand anything further that is communicated. The first lesson is we are not the body, we are the spirit soul. So, how does spiritual education, what kind of knowledge does the spiritual education give us about this spirit soul? First and foremost, it tells us that we are not this body, but we are the spirit soul, which we discussed. Now, the scriptures do not just leave us at this point. The scriptures also tell us that our body is of three types. There are three types of bodies. Two of this body is temporary and one is permanent. The first type of temporary body is the gross body. The gross body is what? Is the outer body. It's also called as the outer body, which is made of earth, water, fire, air and ether. Interestingly, and His Holiness Vedvyas Priya Maharaj was also explaining about the Mahat Tattva, in his first class, which Prahlad Maharaj is explaining to his classmates. Earth, it talks about all the solid elements that our body is made up of. Water talks about all the liquid elements that our body is made up of. Fire talks about the heat element that our body is made up of. Heat and combustion come from fire element. Otherwise we can't. Without fire we cannot even digest food which we are eating. Because it requires Agni or fire. Air is the gas element in the body. If there is a gas imbalance, what happens? In fact, one of our devotees, he had a problem of dizziness. The doctor said there is Vayu imbalance in your body. So he was not able to, balance his whole body. So it requires to balance. Even the plane cannot balance itself without proper manipulation of air that is flowing above the wing and below the wing, right? So similarly, our body also cannot balance itself. So air balance is required in our body. And then ether. Space is required. Between two organs, what is there? There is space. In fact, most of the space inside is space. Space occupies most of the space inside our body, right? And next is water. So, space also is sound. Sound comes in the presence of space. So that is called as ether. Earth, water, fire, air and ether. So this is our gross body. And then there is subtle body. Subtle body is the inner material. Gross body is the outer material. Subtle body is what the inner material is made up of. Out of which the foremost is what? Mind. Mind, it is said, is the storehouse. It's like the hard disk of a computer. It is the storehouse of thoughts, emotions and desires. It is a storehouse. And next is the intelligence. Intelligence does what function? Discrimination, determination and decisions. These are all functions of the intelligence. And then false ego. False ego, it does the wrong job of helping us misidentify the real I with the gross body or the subtle body. That is what false ego does. It is the middleware which connects our identities. It is that software which connects the other software with the hardware. So middleware, like that. So that is false ego. So wherein the soul thinks that my permanent identity is this body. That is called as false ego. And then there is a true ego also, which we'll talk about. So these two are the temporary bodies, which we are not. And then the scriptures tell us of the permanent body, which is also called as Siddha Deha, or the spiritual body that we have, which is the innermost body. I remember once His Holiness Bhanu Maharaj gave us a presentation where he was showing the inner body, standing like this. Right? So that is the inner body. Now, the gross body, we saw how the gross body identifies. I am man, woman, Australian, cricketer, we saw all those things. Soccer player, these are all gross identifications. But subtle identifications can also be there. How are you? I am happy. How are you? I am sad. I am dash. Sad. Or I am intelligent. I am a fool. So Prabhupada actually, once Prabhupada was told, someone said, Prabhupada, I am fallen, I am this. Prabhupada said, we are nothing. So there's nothing beyond I am. There's only one line. What Prabhupada said, I am servant of Krishna. That is the only identity. All others are identities based on the gross platform or based on the subtle body platform. Right? So we are not even fallen, because originally we are what? Nobody is fallen. Originally we are all pure spirit souls. We are all devotees of the Lord, pure devotees of the Lord. So in such sense, being fallen is only a temporary conditioned state. It is not our eternal position. Therefore Prabhupada said as such. So now, therefore scriptures also talk about, give information on the difference between body and soul. So scriptures use different analogies. So one of the analogies which the scripture used is that this body is like a suit, a two-piece suit, a shirt, and then on top of that we wear a two-piece suit. So sometimes people who have not studied the scriptures, if you ask them, do you believe in soul? They said, yeah, I know soul. But if you ask them, can you tell about the soul? How they will say it? They'll say, I know that I am this body and inside me there is a soul. Inside everyone there is a soul. So what is the problem here? There is a logical flaw here. I am this body and inside me is a soul. They know it, but yet they don't know it. This is like the flight which is supposed to land in San Francisco, landing in Los Angeles. Okay, destination completely different. At the end of the day, gone. However, scriptures correct us in speaking the right language. I am soul and covering me is a body. Not that I am body and inside me there is a soul. So this is the fundamental paradigm shift that happens. And then when we get this paradigm shift, then we get clarity of thinking, by which we can absorb spiritual knowledge in its most pristine manner. Otherwise we can't, because lack of this knowledge becomes a blocker in any spiritual knowledge coming to us. So therefore, I am soul and I am covered by this body. Not that I am body and inside me there is a soul. I am that soul. So therefore, Ramana Maharishi, the famous, one famous saint in India, he said that the question of mine, where it stops, that is you. So you don't say my soul, because you are the soul. You cannot ask a question, can I see my soul? Because the person who sees is the soul. Right? Of course, can I see somebody else's soul? That also we cannot see. Because soul is so small that even microscope cannot see the soul. Nothing has been invented till now to see the soul, right? So understanding that I am the soul trapped inside this body is the pivotal point in one's spiritual journey. That is a turning point. Chaitanya Charan Prabhu gives an analogy of the computer. He says the gross body is akin to the hardware of the computer, right? The subtle body is the software. The mind is the hard disk which stores all impressions, right? Whatever junk you put, it will all store inside mind. And the processor then will process all these things. The electricity is the spiritual body, without which nothing will run, right? And the soul is the user, right? So, modern artificial intelligence, what we talk about, is still gross. Modern artificial intelligence is not subtle, it is gross, because artificial intelligence will only work on what data is fed to it. There is some external thing that is interfering there. All material data is fed into artificial intelligence, and then there is a pre-programmed logic also, which is material logic, right? That is done. But so artificial intelligence cannot substitute for free will. Free will is a much, much subtle aspect of the soul, right? Artificial intelligence cannot decide that I know, suppose, let us say National Australia Bank decides to implement artificial intelligence. The artificial intelligence says, oh my God, I have served this bank for many years. I want to change now. I'm going to Westpac. Can it go? Can you and I go? You can go and join other competitive bank, right? But artificial intelligence cannot do that. Why? Because artificial intelligence can never give free will, right? So this is the problem. So we have to understand that human intelligence is much, much subtler subject. This has to be understood, and this can be understood only when we study the scriptures. Artificial intelligence cannot make natural choices. A robo cannot fall in love with another robo and decide, I have been with this robo for so long, I don't know when I fell in love, I'm thinking of marrying. Let's ask the father-in-law of the robo. Hang on, what serial number was father-in-law? And the robo paying obeisances, trying to please the father-in-law. Can it happen? Never. It will never happen. Correct? Okay. And somebody corrupts that robo, then what happens? Even if the robo falls in love in 1 second, it can be corrupted. He's like, who are you? Like that. And the other robo is telling, oh, you loved me so much. I don't know. Right? So therefore, we can understand how idiotic we are when we say that artificial intelligence can replace human beings. Not possible. It can only make our life more difficult, right? Machine language cannot replicate free will. By free will, we do machine language or choose not to do machine language. That also requires free will only. So, the scriptures talk about this concept of body and soul through several analogies, and devotees who have studied the scriptures also help us understand these things very easily. The Upanishads itself start with analogy of the body and soul. So what they say, the Upanishads have clearly said that the body is like a chariot. The senses are like the horses. And the reins are like the mind. But we have to be very careful. There is two aspects. The reins can hold the horses, or the horses can direct the reins. Just like when I see morning people walking their dogs, sometimes the man is in control of the dog, sometimes the dog is in control of the man. The man has to run here because the dog is running somewhere. Especially I have seen when I walk in the morning, when it sees a she dog, the dog says to hell with my owner, I am running there. When it sees female dog, the man has to run behind the dog. So sometimes the man is controlling the reins, sometimes the dog is controlling the man through the reins. So therefore, it is not just enough to understand that the mind is akin to the reins, but the charioteer is important, because the charioteer with intelligence knows how to control the reins and not to be controlled by the movement of the reins. That's why the mind, intelligence is compared to the charioteer. And the result of all this is what? The passenger is driven in some direction, which is the soul. The soul is the passenger. So the scriptures also give it at the very outset, right? So, of course, some people, they may not, have studied the scriptures, but still there are enough evidences in this world that are there now. Scientists are studying what is called as the reincarnation, and there are a lot of studies that have proved the existence of the soul. And Pratyaksha Praman, which is all the non-believers will only understand something which they see in front of their eyes. They will not understand Shabda Praman or hearing from the scriptures, right? So therefore, example is there recently of a man called Deep Kapadia. Anyone heard of this? Deep Kapadia? Recent example, this person was in Mumbai. He was born in Mumbai, right? As Deep Kapadia. And then in Mumbai, this boy is a small boy now. Small boy with his parents. And when he was hardly, within first 2 years, he started saying that I want to go to Udaipur. Okay. And he was talking so much about Udaipur, and he started talking in the language. I think it is Marwadi language, right? What do they speak in Udaipur? I don't know. Whatever local language, they started speaking that, and he was not even born, he didn't know. He started speaking 3 or 4 languages in his childhood. And this is a real incident. And his parents are completely bewildered. Sir, where did he learn this language? We never speak it at home. Neither do his friends speak this language. And that too, he is so small. Where did he understand this? So after some time, they consulted a doctor who sent them to something called as a paranormal experience doctor. So that fellow said that, oh, let us take him. And that was an American doctor, so more credibility. So they took this person and then said, no, let's actually go to where he's saying. They went to Udaipur. To cut a long story short, that boy, the moment the bus landed in Udaipur, he ran exactly and saying that, oh, this is Udaipur Palace, this is that, and there must be a shop there must be this there. And the parents are thinking, what is this? How come he knows all this information? Then they finally took him to Udaipur Palace. When they took him to Udaipur Palace, all the officials of the Udaipur Palace had come out. And then what happened? The boy was taken inside and the boy looked at a photo frame and he said, take this photo frame out, because behind this photo frame is a secret passage exit out of this palace. And they said, how come? Only the security guard knows this, right? And finally, the boy told them, I was the chief security officer of this palace in my previous lifetime. That's why I know every single detail. Because I was the chief security officer, I know every nook and corner around this, right? So this was a recent experience of Deep Kapadia. Of course, the story is very exciting, but what is the point? What is the point of remembering that I was the chief security officer of Udaipur? Because the last Antakale Chamameva Smaran Muktva Kalevaram, chief security officer, gone. Next lifetime, chief security officer. This is an interesting story, but is this what we want to become? Being born in Mumbai to go to Udaipur. I was doing a program once in Doncaster suburb, right? So I had started, we had just finished talking about the body and the soul. And then I was telling the people that in the next lifetime, if you want to choose where you want to be born. So one lady raised hand and she said, I want to be born in Raichur. Okay. I said, why? Why Raichur? Because my parents are there. I said, no, next lifetime. Next lifetime, new parents. Which parents? Then she started thinking, next lifetime. I said, you will not even remember your parents in the next lifetime and you will start thinking, why I am born in Raichur? And then I said, if you were so much in love with Raichur, why did you come to Australia, to Doncaster? You should have stayed in Raichur only. Correct? So therefore, we don't know what we want. We have no idea. We will come to know what we want in our next lifetime only if we understand we are spirit soul. So sometimes in some programs, I play this game of Aladdin with people. I am Aladdin. I have come with a magic lamp. Ask and thou shalt get. And I told everyone, now don't think seriously and tell me, in your next lifetime, what do you want? Okay. Of course, the people who are devotees, who are serving in the program, they say, Prabhuji Vaikunta. I said, shh, you're not allowed to answer. Goloka. No, we don't want it. Let's understand the common man now. So people have interesting answers. One Mataji in the same program, she said, I want to be born as a man. I said, why? I said, this man has troubled me so much, I want to give it back to him in the next lifetime. So that is her desire. And she was candid about it. Right? Cook this, cook that. Next lifetime he will cook everything. And I will be watching television. So this was her desire. So people have different desires. But then one person said, I am very clear. At least I want to be born as a... one person said, I want to be born as a dog. I said, why? Oh, the no tension, no studies, nothing, no job, no Monday, no performance appraisal. Right? But I asked him, do you want to be born in a dog in Australia or in India? He said, no, Australian dog. Because Indian dog means municipal truck will take you. No food. You will be eating garbage outside the railway lines. Correct? Not like Australian dog, where you have a, whole shop called as dog shop. Right? With apparel for a dog. That is also branded. So which dog will have this kind of a life? Right? In India, nobody. So he said, no, dog, but. I said, now, but, no. You tell what you want. Aladdin is giving choice. One choice, right? Then another person said, no, Prabhuji, I understand. I want to be born as a human being. I said, definitely. Human being, you will be born in Syria. He said, no, I want my head and my body to be together. Not Achinta Veda Ved. Simultaneous oneness and difference. Right? So therefore, people don't want to be born in Syria or Pakistan. Right? People still want, where do you want to be born? Then he started thinking, India? No, but India means then how do I get PR? Again I have to write IELTS exam. So people started thinking in the program. Okay, and this is, unless you we take time for ourselves and start thinking, we will never know what we want. We will be busy and going somewhere and we don't know where we are going. Right? That is how whole mankind is going towards nowhere today. No one knows where they are going, but they are all very busy. But what happens? Their minds, which are besotted with the artificial identity, you are a soccer player, you are a rich man, you are this, you are that, keeps them engaged, oblivious to the real higher truths of life. And that is the reason why Prahlad Maharaj is hammering this point to his classmates, that we have to do this inquiry. Who am I? Who am I? Who am I? Otherwise we will not understand anything. So spiritual education gives us this knowledge. What are the benefits of this spiritual education? There are a lot of benefits of this spiritual education. First and foremost, it is only spiritual education that will make us fearless. Etan nirvidya mananam ichchatam akuto bhayam yoginam nripa nirnitam Hare nama anukirtanam. Doubtless, bhakti is the doubtless and fearless way for everyone. So the topmost benefit of attaining this knowledge is that one becomes fearless. Why? Because what does one fear? What does everyone fear? 4 things. Birth, disease, old age and death. Again people challenge, birth is what big problem in birth? Then it will, birth in Syria? No, fearful. Right? Birth in a poor, impoverished family? No. At least middle class family. Right? I don't want to be working till I'm 75. Because I was born in a poor family. Right? Even I want to retire. Right? So birth, disease, old age and death, 4 problems of life. But when we tell people that you are not this body, your existence is not within the finite, like a frog in the well, of one birth and one death. Your existence is even beyond that. They feel, is it? I won't die? No, you won't die, sir. You will live. You will only leave your body. And scientists have called this phenomenon as death. But death will not happen to you. Soul never dies, right? So that, and then people are relieved. In fact, one saintly personality, I heard, was lecturing in a temple where 3 obese ladies came. And obviously what happens when we are very obese, then, even in school, people are like, they are used to bullying in school, and even when they grow up, they don't find the right partners many times, okay? Unless people who don't look at the body, okay? People look at the person. Such people are great. But usually they were used, all these 3 were friends because they didn't have other friends, little extra obese, right? So these people came to the temple, and when the speaker, the saintly personality, told them that you are not their body, their whole life changed after that. They said, we were so happy, all of them were beaming. Said, we are not our body? Yeah, you are not your body. So don't think that you are dash. I am obese. I am nothing. In this lifetime, my body is obese. I am not obese. You are trapped inside an obese body because of some karmic influences. But you can change your karma. And you will not be obese eternally. Don't worry. And that gave them a lot of hope. So the spiritual knowledge gives fear to people. Fearlessness to people, right? Also, this spiritual knowledge of body and soul helps us become sinless. Helps us become sinless, okay? Why? Because when we understand that we are eternally accountable, because spirit soul is eternal, accountability is also eternal, which means karma does not end. You cannot say, I'll do all kinds of sins because after that, I died. Now nobody can do anything to me. I have nicely enjoyed. I did whatever I want. I murdered, I raped, everything I did. And now I will die. Anyway, they can only hang me once. So let me commit 50 murders and 20 rapes. Why? No, it doesn't work like that. Because you can be given capital punishment only once in this lifetime. But you will have to account for next 70 lifetimes, even if you are a good man and you didn't touch anyone. And then you will say, why do bad things happen to a good man like mine? Sir, last lifetime. Account karma is carried now. So when people come to understand this, then people try to take a sinless, they become sinless. That is why devotees are very careful not to commit sins, not even aparadhas, because it will have reactions. It will get us another lifetime at least, and nobody wants to come back into this material world, right? And finally, it helps us focus on the real goal of life. We understand that we are spirit soul, but there is the supreme spirit with who we have an eternal relationship. Yesterday His Holiness Vedvyaspriya Maharaj was saying the lecture, 2 verses he said. Jivera Swarupa hoy, Nityera Krishna Das. Ekali Ishvara Krishna Ara Sabha Bhritya. Right? So we are Bhritya, servants. Therefore that eternal identity one gets. And then the scriptures tell more, in your spiritual identity, you can serve the Lord in the spiritual world eternally, and you can get rid of all these problems of birth, disease, old age and death forever. Now this knowledge is only given in the scriptures. Therefore Prahlad Maharaj is now telling all his friends, my dear friends, please get this knowledge. This is what I understood from Narad Muni in the womb. Now I am telling it to you. So and Prabhupada in his purports is hammering this point, that we cannot underestimate the importance of knowing the soul. As devotees, sometimes we think, oh, one more class on soul and body, I've heard it many times. No, more and more it is hammered, more and more it is beneficial for us. Right? Okay, I'll stop here. We have another 4 minutes. Any comments, questions, corrections? Gopanesh Prabhu, any points? Swami Sampurna Prabhu. Sorry, Mataji, sorry, she asked first. It's okay? Okay.
Krishna Prabhu, thank you for a wonderful discourse. A quick question regarding, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explained in the beginning that you're not this body or spirit soul, and later on, but he keeps on referring Arjuna with different names like Partha, Kunteya. So if you can elaborate on that. Like he's again bringing him to relationships.
Yeah. Identification, not identifying as a spirit soul, doesn't mean we become mechanical in our dealings with people. For example, I cannot go home right now and I call my wife, oh soul, oh soul. How does that sound? It sounds ridiculous. She'll say, what happened? Bhang pi aaya kya? She will tell. Right? What happened? Are you okay? She'll give me Panadol. Right? So we cannot say, oh soul, oh soul. In our office, can we say, oh souls? No. They'll say, we have come from some evangelical church or something like that. This is office, man. Okay, so material identity is required to address each other, right? And specifically coming to Krishna and Arjuna, they have a very special relationship. So Krishna is talking to Arjuna very affectionately. Parth and Partha Sarathi. So Krishna has become Krishna is identifying as what? The servant of Arjuna, right? Now Krishna is actually not the servant of Arjuna, but that is Bhagavan, because Bhagavan has got 6 characteristics. Aishwaryasya, Samagrasya, Viryasya, Yashashriya, Jnana, Vairagyyoschaiva Shannam Bhaga Itingana. One of the beautiful qualities of God is, He has everything, but still He is humble. He chooses to be humble. Sometimes we are humble, but our humility is not because of choice, it is because of majburi. Right? It is because of inabilities we have to be humble, right? But Krishna is not like that. Okay, Krishna has a choice, right? But still he is humble. So he identifies himself transcendentally as the eternal servant of his pure devotee called as Arjuna. So in that identity he is calling him as Parth and him as Partha Sarathi. Does that answer? Okay.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for touching base with the identity that we have to identify ourselves as the soul, and the scriptures talk about the size of the soul and we are eternal. Do the scriptures talk about the shape of the soul as well?
Yes, the scriptures also talk about the shape of the soul. The scriptures give an example saying that just when light enters a room, what shape does it take? The shape of the room. So like that, soul also has got a form. We have a Siddha Deha, and that Siddha Deha has a form, right? So there is no question of formlessness. So the answer is yes. The scriptures talk about it. Is that okay? Okay.
So can we say that it's just like light?
Yeah. The soul is not just like light. The soul, one of the characteristics of the soul is that the soul is effulgent. But the soul is not light. The soul is a spirit particle. The soul is the spirit's particle. And this spirit particle has got sentience also. Ordinary light doesn't have sentience. We cannot fall in love with light. Neither can light reciprocate with other light. Right? So, yes, the soul has an effulgence. It's naturally effulgent. But the real characteristic of the soul is what? Sat, Chit and Anand. The soul has got three characteristics. Eternality, full of knowledge. Light is not full of knowledge. Suppose I on a tube light, suddenly I will not become knowledgeable. Right? Because that is material light coming from material interaction of atoms, right? Or electrons. But this light is different. This light is a characteristic of the soul. Right? But the soul's eternal quality is what? Sat, Chit and Anand. And Sat, Chit, Ananda Vigraha. Every soul has got a form. We all have a spiritual form. In that form we serve the supreme spiritual form. So yes, the answer is there is a form.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, Prabhuji. How can we? A big question. It will take lifetime, and I don't even know whether I'm the right person to say that because I don't have any. Okay, but yes, how can we encourage love for Krishna? I'll answer very briefly. First is we have to have some faith that God exists. We cannot love someone who we think doesn't exist only. Right? So Shraddha is the first step. Now just having faith and thinking that, yeah, I have full faith. If we marry and we say, I have full faith, you are my wife. I have full faith, you are my wife. Will that help love? Obviously there has to be we have to spend time with wife. So therefore we have to spend time with Krishna's representatives, which is called as sadhu sangha, faith and association. In association, what do we do? Oh no, I am with my wife, full day we spend time in the house. Do you do any work? No, I don't do. But I'm with there, in the same house, in the same room. How does that sound? Ridiculous, right? There's no relationship that will develop. So what happens? We have to do something practical, which is called as bhajana kriya. Bhajana kriya means practicing the activities which are prescribed as a part of devotional service. Srila Prabhupada never defined bhakti as devotion. Devotion is not a sentiment. Devotion is activities based on emotions, on the right emotions. So there is a science to how to do devotional service. Shravanam ki, there are 9 processes, out of which the most important practice is what? Hearing, chanting and remembering the Lord. Shravanam, Kirtanam and Vishnu Smaranam. These 3 activities have to be done practically, otherwise nothing will happen. Just saying, I have faith, nothing is going to happen. Right? And then what happens? As we keep chanting, what happens? We go to the next stage called Anartha Nivritti. Whatever impurities that are there in our heart, all that kachra will go away. Like a detergent powder cleans a cloth, that will go away. And then we will get consistency in our practices, and after that slowly what will happen? We will start doing the same devotional service, not out of duty, but because we have developed a taste for doing it. Right? So for example, I'll take care of my wife because I love her, not because I have married her. Does it make sense? Not because under the tenets of the law, one die shall take care. No. Suppose wife cooks for us and says, I have cooked feast for you because I have been told that by my father that it is the duty of a wife to cook for the husband. Therefore I have done my duty. Take it. How does that sound? Ridiculous. But if she says, I have done it out of my love. You like, no? Uttapam. Therefore I did. It sounds, oh, thank you very much, my dear wife. So that is called as what? We start liking to serve that person. And then what happens? We get attached to serving that person. And then in that attachment, then that transforms into we ecstatically serve that person. Nobody needs to tell us now. We are blissful in serving that person. And then what happens? We are very happy in serving that person. And then we love that person so much after that, that even if we are not happy, to hell with whatever I need, your service more important. That is called as prema. Prema means I don't care whether I get spiritual emotions, not emotions, nothing is important, but you are important to me. So these are the stages by which one attains prema. So how to increase prema? Bhajana kriya. For us, that is very hard. Yes, Prabhuji. The only reason I am taking 2-3 minutes more because the cooks, especially the Sunday cooks, they have always told me thank you for long class because we get more time to. Okay, but I shouldn't misuse their instruction. Okay. Yeah, one more question we will take.
Spiritual body.
Huh?
So when we get liberated, now we got material body.
Yes.
So when we get liberated, we get spiritual body.
Yes.
So how is the spiritual body will be?
So when we get liberated, we don't get a spiritual body. When we get liberated, we realize our spiritual body. Spiritual body is already there. We are spiritual. Prabhupada says Krishna consciousness is not an artificial imposition on the mind. In the Science of Self-Realization, Prabhupada writes that. Right? So it's not something outside we have to acquire. Oh, spiritual body, where are you? No. We are the spiritual body. But our spiritual body is covered by Avidya. So as we do bhajana kriya, that avidya will go away. From avidya, our spiritual nature will start manifesting. That is why in the 6 characteristics of bhakti, what is the second characteristic? First is klesha agni. Second is what? Shubhada. Shubhada means all auspicious quality will start manifesting. Not from outside, from inside. Therefore, when we become devotees, after a few years, what happens? We stop using swear languages, right? We don't use that. We automatically start dealing with people differently, right? More sobriety comes after practicing bhakti. So all auspicious qualities will dawn, but it comes from inside. It is nothing to be acquired from outside. Because all these qualities are hidden right now. We are covered. Prabhupada says the spirit soul is covered by the layer of pride, anger, greed, envy and lust. P-A-G-E-L, pagal. Right? It is covered now. So what happens? By chanting, all this will get cleansed. And as it gets cleansed, the pristine nature of our own selves, which is the soul, will start manifesting itself. And we will start acting more and more on the platform of the soul and less on the platform of the body. Does it make sense, Prabhuji? Is that okay?
So why after death we say it's a ghostly body?
Why after death we say?
Some spirit.
Why it's a ghost body?
Yeah.
Ghost body we say because the soul has left the gross body, but it has not left the subtle body. So what is ghost? The scriptures explain ghost means gross body with spirit soul with a subtle body which can't find a gross body because of its karma. Maybe suicide, maybe accident, akala mrityu. And therefore that is searching to be a resident in some body because the desires which we have are carried in the subtle body. So that is not liberation. Just going outside this body is not liberation. Just getting rid of gross body is not liberation. Getting rid of subtle body is liberation. Right? Otherwise the subtle body still has all desires. So only when all our desires have become spiritual, then what happens? There is no subtle body. Subtle body is dissolved. Because subtle body is full of material desires. So when there are no material desires, subtle body doesn't have a place. Therefore the soul is free now to move to Vaikuntha. Does that help? Yeah. Okay. So I'll stop here because it's 9:07. Any other questions we can discuss offline. Grantaraj Śrīmad Bhāgavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Nitai Gaur Premanandi. Hare Krishna.
I have understood, but I have not understood even after. I can make someone else understand.
Okay. You want to make someone else understand? I'll give you a book. I'll give you a book. वो पढ़ लीजिए. That will help you become very effective in your preaching. आज का जो मैंने क्लास दिया उसी बुक से दिया. Would you like to have that book? ठीक है. So this is written by Radha Gopinath Prabhu, I don't know, you know these people. He was here recently from Chopati. So they have worked together on this book. Many people, Lord Gopal Prabhu, all these people have come together. Prabhu is the author of the book. They have written a book by which even to a fool we can preach. And you don't have to do big. Like today, body and soul ka, kitna examples are. They are all from that book that I have. Mera nahi hai kuch. So I'll give you that book. Okay?
Yeah.
So,
because I had this discussion with someone from Brahmakumaris, they were saying it's light. So then tell us what's the shape. So I could not make them understand. That's why I asked.
light is Brahman.
Yeah.
Light is Brahman.
So from today, I understand that we will be revealed of our identity. But then they asked, then what's the shape? Is it human being? Is
Soul
it
has
an
a form.
animal?
Shape, form.
Okay.
Say form. Okay.
Okay.
Soul has got a form. In the spiritual form we serve the Lord. We cannot serve the Lord in formlessness.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. But the shape can be taken back. For example, these are three chandas.
Gaurarangam Gandharva Ikamaniya Vishesha Shobha Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Angani Yasa Sakalem Priya Priti Manti Vasyan Dipan Dikayanti Chiram Jaganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadhu Jala Vigrahasya Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami 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 Govindam
Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Juta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavansam Shri Rupam Chakrajatam Sahagana Raghunathantam Svam Sajivam Shadaitam Savadhutam Chaitanya Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhantam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivedanta Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivedanta Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivedanta Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Vihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Radha Madhava की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय, नवाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर। गोविंद जय जय गोपाल जय जय, राधा रमन हरि गोविंद गोविंद जय जय गोपाल जय जय, राधा रमन हरि गोविंद जय जय। गोविंद जय जय गोपाल जय, राधा रमन हरि गोविंद जय गोविंद जय जय गोपाल जय, राधा रमन हरि गोविंद गोविंद जय जय गोपाल जय जय, राधा रमन हरि गोविंद गोविंद जय जय गोपाल जय जय, गोविंद जय जय गोपाल जय जय, राधा रमन हरि गोविंद जय। गोविंद जय जय गोपाल जय जय, राधा रमन हरि गोविंद जय गोविंद जय जय गोपाल जय जय, राधा रमन हरि गोविंद गोविंद जय जय गोपाल जय जय, राधा रमन हरि गोविंद गोविंद जय जय गोपाल जय, राधा रमन हरि गोविंद गोविंद जय जय गोपाल जय गोविंद जय जय गोपाल जय राधा रमन हरि गोविंद राधा रमन हरि गोविंद
Jaya